Okay, the weekend recap with Patrick Mullins. One place to start, really, Patrick. Il Etait Temps landing the odds in the Betfair Tingle Creek Chase. Was this, I suppose, everything you'd hoped for, and maybe a little bit more as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a wowzer of a performance. I think we were hoping he might win, but I mean, to do it in the manner he did was fantastic. He just seems to be improving all the time, and for to get a Tingle Creek, it's obviously one of those iconic races. So I think Paul got a good kick out of that, obviously.
Yeah, it sounded like Paul was sort of wondering why he'd been giving up the ride on this horse for so many years in the past. Danny was the beneficiary in the past.
Yeah, Danny's obviously had a fantastic relationship with him. He's probably made him the horse he is, and even I think I won an amateur maiden hurdle on him in Thurles, and then didn't ride him then in a DRF because I said it'd be a waste of one of my 21 rides because sure he won't beat Fast Vega. So Danny rode him and obviously won on him, and obviously he's grown from there. But I mean, he's not much to look at. He was fifth and second in French bumpers down the country when we bought him. He wasn't one of these massive £500,000 horses, so it just shows that the good horse can come from anywhere.
Yeah, he's a dream story, isn't he? How do you reckon sort of see the rest of his campaign mapping out from here then?
Well, sure, look, I imagine he follows all those top class 2 mile chases. Whether he goes back to Christmas, we'll see how he comes out of the race. But I mean, you go, I imagine Leopardstown, Christmas DRF onto Cheltenham, and I mean he's won at Aintree and Punchestown, so I imagine it maps itself out.
Okay, that's the crunch question, though, isn't it? Because he hasn't won at Cheltenham. Do you think there's something against Cheltenham there? The undulations, as you say, he's not a particularly big horse. He was third in the Arkle, wasn't he? He was fourth or fifth in a Triumph and a Supreme. Is he a Cheltenham horse?
Look, I suppose it's definitely a question mark. I wouldn't mind he got beaten in the Triumph. It was only I think maybe his second run over hurdles. It was a very good run. He probably was a little bit disappointing in the Supreme, but I think he got shuffled back at maybe the hurdle before they turned down the hill. It might not have been his true running, and then for whatever reason in the Arkle, he made two very bad mistakes at both ditches. Now whether that was just a fluke on the day. I mean, when you look at him jump at Sandown the other day, the scope he showed at the last two jumps was extraordinary. So it is a question mark, but I don't see any particular reason why he wouldn't be able to act around Cheltenham, particularly now as he's settling and jumping much better. He is a different type of horse than he was as a novice chaser and a novice hurdler. Much more professional now, I think.
Okay, let's move on. There were Champion Chase repercussions as well from the Hilly Way Chase on Sunday. That was at Cork. Majborough, he couldn't quite get the job done, but were there positives to take from that performance? He was second to a race fit horse in Founder 50.
Yeah, well, look, I think there's no doubt. I think a lot of hours are coming on for the run. Il Etait Temps had a run in Clonmel. Obviously, Founder 50 has 2 runs this season. He's fighting fifth, and I think if you ran the race in 3 weeks' time, we would turn the result around. However, obviously his jumping wasn't what you'd particularly like to see. He was a little bit out to his left. Looked like he maybe wasn't concentrating once or twice, and he made a bad mistake at the second last. Now he still nearly won despite all of that. So you would hope that his jumping is going to have to improve. When he's good, he's very, very good. I mean, obviously on Leopardstown or in Punchestown, he was fantastic. But his jumping let him down in Cheltenham, and it let him down again yesterday in Cork. So we are going to have to try and iron that out.
Okay, so from that, you wouldn't be recommending to Willie, however else might be listening, to go 2.5 miles with Majborough?
Well, look, we consider it. We consider it. Maybe going a stride slower will suit him. All options are open, so we'll have to sit down and talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, we've got to mention Energumene. He was back in third in the Hilly Way. He must have been showing a little bit of the old sparkle to start off in a race like that over 2 miles, because there'd been talk about 2.5 for him as well, hadn't there? Is there still a bit of life there?
Yeah, I think Paul was delighted with him. I thought he ran a cracking race, behind two young pretenders, and he beat Banbridge obviously well. Maybe that was a similar run as last year. So yeah, I think we're probably going to look to step him up in trip. But I think the big key for him is just getting proper soft ground, and you don't really get that in Leopardstown anymore. So I don't know where Willie is going to end up sending him. But I think ideally he'd love to get proper heavy ground, and probably even 2 miles in proper heavy ground, but probably to step up in trip as well. He's not getting any younger, but the flame is still burning anyway. Paul was delighted with him.
Yeah, it's a fascinating division at the minute, but I suppose Il Etait Temps is the clubhouse leader maybe at this stage. I think he's favourite anti-post for the Queen Mother Champion Chase. Let's reflect briefly on Navan Saturday. There were a couple of 2 mile maiden hurdles. You were a winner with Saint Baco, and then Copacabana, the big horse from the bumpers last year, was runner-up in the other. What do you take from that pair?
Yeah, well, look, I think you have to mark up Sambaco hugely. You know, like I said, a lot of our horses are needing their first run. So for him to go out and win in Navan, which I always see as a home game for Gordon, it's an away game for us. I think you have to mark that up. He's by Cocorico. He's a brother to San Roy. He's a beautiful horse, and I just think there should be huge improvement in him. So that was definitely a performance to take note of.
And Copacabana?
Copacabana, yeah, look, I think he's a huge big horse, and I just think he needed the run. It looked to me like maybe a furlong and a half down he'd come and win, and he just got tired. I'd expect to see huge improvement to him next time, and I think probably going up in trip will be a help to him too. But I thought that was a notable performance from him as well. He's definitely a horse to keep on the right side of.
Yeah, and it sounded like Danny Mullins was quite impressed with Predator's Gold. He was back from a long time off. He won the Beginner's Chase. Are we looking now? I mean, he's got the Grade 1 form of the book from a novice hurdler. Are we thinking about Brown advisories, or maybe on the route to an Irish Grand National or something along those lines?
Yeah, well, look, I think he's definitely a Grade 1 horse. You know, he's great form. I think I was second on him in Grade 1 at the DRF, maybe behind Ballyburn. He'd been schooling really well. Look, he'd been off a year and a half. So I think a lot of our beginners' chases are probably winning because they're probably horses that are, they've been in the yard 2 or 3 years. They've had a bit more grind and graft. They're probably ready a bit quicker than the younger maiden hurdlers and bumper horses. But I think to go out and beat Slade Steel and Wingman, that's the final demand form. So he should. I thought he looked still a bit roundy in the ring. I think there's huge improvement in him. And to me, he definitely has to be a big contender in the Brown Advisory.
Okay, a very quick line on your Huntingdon bumper horse yesterday. Wonderful every day. Didn't seem to find a great deal when push came to shove. And where are we likely to see you on track next, Patrick?
Yeah, all three of the horses ran poorly in Huntingdon. No real reason. I mean, St. Sam didn't raise a gallop. Close Sutton was very poor. I think my mare just blew up. I turned in going well, and when we had to go racing, she took a blow, and that a few of them are doing that. It was a nice track. It was a quick track, flat track. Nice to see it. I won't be anywhere till next weekend. There's racing Punchestown tomorrow, no bumper, and I've no trips across the sea in the next few days. So we'll be out, maybe Fairy House. I think there's a 4 fillies one from Fairy House, something like that. So
Fantastic, good stuff. Well done this weekend, and we'll speak to you again ahead of next weekend.
thanks very much.